Hi, hope you're doing well. My name is Samsarah Morgan, and I'm a mom and a grandma. I'm a doula, birth and postpartum, a few other things as well. I am the executive director and founder of the Oakland Better Birth Foundation and NIA Healing Center for Birth and Family Life. And I wanted to add a little video to our channel, talk to you a little bit about VBAC, which is vaginal birth after cesarean. So before I get into that, I want to say that I am a doula for sure. I've been a doula for 40 years. I have a great deal of experience there. I've birthed babies of my own and assisted clients in birthing babies, assisted clients through C-sections as well as VBACs. So I have experience in that way. So I'm not speaking to you like a medical person. I'm not speaking to you like a midwife because I'm neither of those things. I will be a midwife one day. I'm in training. But right now, today, I'm going to speak to you as a mom, grandma, birthing person, and doula. Okay? With this video are going to come further information and links so that you can do some more research on your own. For me as a doula, my first place to go, the first thing I want to talk about is VBAC prevention. So along those lines, we want to talk about situations where how can I prevent having needing to have a VBAC because I didn't have a C-section in the first place. Okay, so that would require you to have had the support that you needed to have a vaginal birth in the very first place. Okay, so the place, in my opinion, that and also proven by studies as well, where you're going to have the least likely possibility of having a C-section, a birth via C-section, would be to have a home birth with a qualified midwife. Home birth with a qualified midwife implies lots of things. It implies that you're a healthy human being. You're a healthy birthing person. You have been eating well. Your midwife has been keeping an eye on that. A home birth midwife will do that. We'll ask you in detail about diet. We'll talk to you and make time for you to process emotional things that might be in the way. We'll talk to you about baby positioning and the best way to help little one be in a very optimal position in your body for birth. And all of those things that help labor to just proceed along its course and for you to be able to vaginally have your baby. Statistically as well, if you have a lot of medications in your birth, it increases the possibility of the baby having a bad reaction to those medications or the baby not being in good position for birth, and then the C-section becomes necessary. So first best prevention would be to have a home birth midwife, right? And a home birth, a natural birth, an unmedicated birth. Second best case scenario, if you're having a hospital birth, is to make sure that you have a doula. Okay, so you've got a doula who has experience and has helped other clients with all different kinds of birthing scenarios, and who will also talk to you about nutrition, who will also talk to you about optimal positioning for your sweet baby and how you can help that to happen, talk to you about exercise. Doulas also give a good deal of emotional support, listen to you, listen to any fears and concerns that you have, and the doula is there to be that hands-on presence to help you hopefully not have a need for medications during your birthing process. Again, backed by lots of really good studies. The presence of a doula, her hands, her voice, There are male doulas, but predominantly we're female, and so there I am with that. But that person giving you that hands-on support, that loving support, that encouragement, because birth can most definitely be incredibly challenging. And depending upon position of the baby and a bunch of other parameters, it can be quite painful. And so yes, you do need that person who's going to encourage you, who's going to remind you that you're not crazy for wanting to have natural birth, to respect your wishes, and to be by your side, to have no agenda, whether you have medications or not, but to also give you that support on having the drug-free birth that you said that you wanted. So there's all that. Third best scenario would be, if you have a hospital birth, you're having a hospital birth in an environment where you are, where there's a lots of nurse midwives there, and cesarean is not their go-to for when things are challenging. If mom and baby stay within certain healthy parameters, a nurse midwife might feel more courage to say, well, let's walk, let's change positions, let's do lunges, let's do things to see if we can have this little one born without surgical intervention. And those interventions tend to, not always, but tend to rely on you being able to be, you the birthing person, being able to get up and use your body, right? So if you're on an epidural, being able to get up and do lunges would be hard. There are things that can be done. You can use peanut ball. There are things that can be done. It's never hopeless. There's always hope. But it is more difficult if you are if you're on an epidural, which pretty much requires you to be flat on your back. Okay. I forgot a good alternative would be to go to a birthing center. A birthing center run by home birth midwives, again, has that same mindset. You want to birth in a place where people have the mindset that you can do this, that they're not looking at you and thinking about all the disasters they were taught in medical school or nursing school. And they're looking at you, especially if you're healthy, you have no high risk categories, you've been eating well, you're ready to have a baby, you want to have a baby, you want to have a natural birth, you've come in with a birth plan, or you're creating a birth plan. You want your support people, the doulas, midwives, doctors, nurses, you want them all to be there to cheer you on while you do this, and to make it more likely that you can do this, right? So if they're looking at you and they're like not being foolish, because the odds are a healthy person is going to be able to deliver vaginally. It's not a pipe dream. It is the way there are how many humans on the earth right now? Quite a few. In this country's rate of safety for birth is very poor. So this country really should not be casting stones on others, or casting stones on home birth, which has very good outcomes, actually. So we want folks around the birthing person to feel confident, to be able to cheer that person on. They're well trained, so that if one of the rare things that happens that requires some intervention happens, they know what to do. Generally, transports from home or birth centers are not because it's an emergency. It's because I think the main reason is that sometimes moms get tired, and a good use of an epidural is to have the mom get some rest so that she can continue on with her birthing process after she gets some rest, and then she can have a vaginal birth. But the energy of that's surrounding a person in labor is very, very key. So you want people who are going to be authentically cheering you on, especially when you have a moment, which happens to almost all birthing folk, that you feel like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. And you need the folks who are going to be able to be there and come from an authentic place, heart to heart with you, and say, you know, you are doing this. And usually at that point where you're feeling like you can't do it anymore, it's almost time to have the baby usually. So hang in there just a little bit longer, and you can do it. So prevention is having a vaginal birth, so you don't need a VBAC at all. A little history on VBACs, like in this country, like in the 50s and 60s, and before that, 70s, 80s. The medical view pretty much was once a cesarean, always a cesarean. So if a woman had a cesarean, she pretty much had no choice in the matter, and all of her babies were going to be born by cesarean. And this is actually rather dangerous. The more cesareans you have, the more concern there is for your body, and there's more risk for real side effects of that. I will include information with the video that you can go look that up and know about that. But that's actually very dangerous. C-section is major abdominal surgery. You really don't want major abdominal surgery unless it really is a life or death situation, right? So women were having, and then, you know, back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, women had more children. So there you were having 3, 4, 5, 6 kids via operation. It wasn't good news for mamas, and it really wasn't good news for babies. So women started speaking to each other and started reaching out to each other. And it's really the best and only way that change happens is when the women, the consumer, starts pushing back against the medical industry and saying, I don't want this. And if this is all you have to offer me, then I'm going to go somewhere else. And women really started reaching out to home birth midwives and saying, listen, please, you know, I've had 3 C-sections. I don't want to have another one. And, you know, and home birth midwives being brave enough to take these women on as clients and to show that basically the majority of them could have vaginal births, sometimes after more than 1 section, and do it very successfully. And that really pushed back against the medical folk and made them actually go do some homework and study on the situation. And there were kind doctors and professional doctors who were interested and who cared about their clients and were excited to find out that it didn't have to be that way. And so we had a bit of a surge in the VBAC movement and talking about VBACs and birthing people having VBACs and having it become a thing that could happen in our culture. What's happening now, I'd say over the past 20 years, is a reversal of that, a very strong reversal of that. And folks showing up at their medical providers and the medical providers saying, yeah, we can support you with a VBAC. And then when you go in to have the baby, you find out that the story is very different and the situation is very different. And you actually are being shuffled down the road to having another operative delivery. This is a problem. This is a very big problem. So along those lines, you know, please, if you're having a hospital birth, please have an experienced doula by your side. It might be difficult. You might be concerned about money. It's similar to getting a home birth midwife. I really, really recommend for folks to shop around, talk to a bunch of people. I don't know any compassionate, empathetic, authentic birth workers who don't work out payment plans with family, who don't work out sliding scale with family. Doulas are here to serve. So we'll do our very best to do that, whatever the situation is. Please have that kind of a person with you. Also, you want to take a look at what's going on between your ears. Are you holding on to fear from your last birth? Are you, especially if it was unplanned, especially if there was some trauma in that experience for you, definitely that's something you can talk out and have time to actually talk out with a home birth midwife or a doula who can give you more than 2 minutes of a conversation to actually get to the root of your fears and maybe cry them out, talk them out. You might also consider speaking to a counselor. A counselor person could be a minister, could be a therapist, it could be any person who's going to be able to sit quietly and listen to you talk about your experience and not interrupt you and give you the eye-to-eye contact and give you affirmation and support whatever you say, not critique you. Just listen, just be there with you. Other things you can do is like writing out your birth story and having a ritual where you write out the story and you decide what are the good parts you're going to keep, like your baby, that was the good part, and other good things about the story, and then there are troubling things about the story that you're going to have things that are troubling, things that are blessings, even though troubled things end up being blessings too, but for the sake of this exercise, troublesome, blessed, and then you can have a safe way to maybe set fire to the troublesome stuff to release it for you. Things like hypnotherapy are very helpful. You might take a look online for the Hypnobabies online courses, and I believe that they have courses there talking about releasing fear, and they're relatively inexpensive and incredibly helpful. Hypnosis is very helpful, period, and the Hypnobabies scenarios are very, very helpful in releasing fear and being able to not let fear and trauma get in the way of what you want to do. Okay, so there's an important organization that I want to let you know about before I say goodbye to you today, and they are the International Cesarean Awareness Network. They're great people to ask questions. They're great people to bounce off anything that you've heard from me that you want to double check and get a more expert opinion on those things. Their website is ican-online.org. And I want to make a recommendation of a book. It's a classic book on the subject called Silent Knife, Cesarean Prevention and VBAC. This book was written in 1983 by Lois Estner. Amazing book, and is relevant today as when it was written. All pregnant people should read it. It should be on every book list. If you're taking childbirth ed class, please ask your childbirth educator to include this book if they haven't already done so. Okay. So as usual, as a doula, what I want is to have you be free from fear. Fear doesn't help at all. Well, if a tiger bounced into my room, being afraid and running would be very helpful. So let's say that, yeah, that would be very helpful. But during situations like this where you're trying to plan and you're trying to think and you're trying to help yourself be safe and you're not in any present danger right now, fear, it just kind of muddies the water and gets in the way. So be brave. And if you want the VBAC, please research the resources that I'm going to share with you in the bottom section of this video. Please feel free to be in touch with me. You can leave me a message here on the video and I'll respond. I am not good at responding to my videos, so I apologize to you in advance about that. I will try to check in every couple weeks. If your request is urgent, feel free to email me on oaklandbetterbirthfoundation@gmail.com. I'll check that a lot more quickly. And but the main thing is to don't be afraid. Seek out help. Don't settle. Don't give up. The best way around this whole subject of cesarean section is to do your best to avoid one. Okay? Now, I need to say this too. Sometimes, under the best of circumstances, doing everything you can, your baby might need to be delivered by cesarean section. So take a deep breath. Sometimes, doing everything you can, reading every book, having a home birth, having a doula, your little one might need to be born by cesarean section. The World Health Organization says that no country should have more than a 10% cesarean section rate. This country has a C-section rate way higher than that, right? If you're one of those mamas, birthing people who needed to have a cesarean, I am going to give thanks with you. I'm going to give thanks for your survival, and I'm going to give thanks for your baby's survival. There's no need to regret what was authentically needed at all. Simply give thanks. And for the next baby, depending upon the circumstances, talk to the professional people, talk to the medical people and the midwifery people, and you are probably, most probably, going to be able to have a vaginal birth with your next child. It's generally the way it goes. But, you know, some people are afraid to try because they're afraid to be disappointed. And my feeling about that is that then, well, you don't get very much out of life if you don't try. That's not a life that's exciting. Okay? You do your best. You try. Sometimes it goes the way you want. And in birth, most of the time it can go the way you want. No? And if it doesn't go the way you want, if it goes in the operative direction, but that means you're there to love your baby and you're there to then immediately bond, breastfeed, and get on the road of holistic mothering, then off you go. Off you go with blessings and gratitude that you were able to do that. And you're here with us. You and your baby are here with us. Okay? And that doesn't mean that you won't have grief feelings. It doesn't mean you won't need support. Get all that. You deserve all that. Folks have beautiful, blissful home births and still have a sense of grief. We need to get what we need. And our community should be there for us to help us get what we need. And no one should assume because you had a baby one way or another way that you feel any kind of way. Right? So, I hope this little bit of information has been helpful to you. Please feel free to be in touch with me. Please think high and loving thoughts about birth. And until we speak again, which I hope will be pretty soon. I'm trying to be good about posting videos on a regular basis. I'm working on it. I'll be back. In the meantime, I wish you peace and baby blessings.